The kitchen still smelled like cinnamon when my phone rang. I'd been peeling Honeycrisp apples since dawn, the kind my late husband used to call the only apples worth the knife. 63 years old, and I still spent the first cold Saturday of November making pie filling for the whole winter. Force of habit. Comfort, maybe. The phone rang a second time before I wiped my hands on the dish towel hanging from the oven handle. I almost didn't pick up. The number wasn't saved. In my experience, calls from numbers I don't recognize either want money or want to tell me something I'm not ready to hear. Hello? A man's voice. Older. Out of breath. Ma'am, are you Imogen Brackenridge, mother of a young woman named Suirse? I sat down in the kitchen stool so fast my knee popped. Yes. Why? What happened? I'm calling from the emergency room at St. Bridget's, up here in Caldwell County. Your daughter. She's stable, but it's bad. She gave us your number before they took her back. She was found about an hour and a half ago by a couple of hikers off the old logging road behind Briar Ridge. Ma'am, you should come. I don't remember hanging up. I don't remember turning off the burner under the apples. I remember the cinnamon sticks rolling into the sink because I knocked the jar over reaching for my keys. Caldwell County is 2 hours from my farmhouse if you drive like a sane person. I made it in 1 hour and 20 minutes, and I'm not proud of that. The whole way up the pass, I kept hearing my brother Hollis's voice in my head. Hollis is my younger brother, retired military police, the kind of man who notices the second exit in every room he walks into. He used to say, "Emo, panic eats clean thinking like termites eat pine." Pine porches. He always said pine. I don't know why that detail stuck with me on Route 30, but it did. Pine porches. I kept saying it out loud like a prayer. The fluorescent lights at St. Bridget's are the kind that turn everybody the color of old milk. A nurse with a clipboard found me before I found her. She watched me past curtained beds and the smell of iodine and somebody crying quietly behind one of the partitions, and she put her hand on my shoulder before she pulled the curtain back. My daughter was on the bed. Her left eye was swollen the color of an eggplant. There was a cut along her hairline that they'd already stitched. Her bottom lip was split. There was a thin tube taped to the back of her hand and another running across her cheek into her nose. The hospital gown sat oddly because of her belly. She was 27 weeks along. She and her husband had been calling the baby Wren for months. They didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. Sarah said she wanted to be surprised the way her grandmother had been surprised. She turned her head toward the sound of the curtain, and her good eye filled up. Mama. I bent down. I put my forehead against the side of her head, the part that wasn't bruised, and I held it there until I could trust myself to speak. I'm here. I'm here, baby. I'm right here, baby. I'm right here. The baby is okay, she whispered. They checked. Twice. Heartbeat's fine. Okay. Good. Good. She closed her good eye. A tear rolled into her ear. Mama. It was her. I didn't have to ask who. There was only one her in my daughter's life who could put that word in her mouth like that. My daughter's mother-in-law, a woman named Coraline Whitlaw Kernoon, who married into oil money in 1978 and never let anybody forget it. A woman who, at her own son's wedding, walked up to me at the gift table and said, "I'm sure you mean well, but you understand my son is making a choice. Here." Those were her exact words. I'd been wearing a dress I'd saved up for. I'd had my hair done. I remember the gift table had hydrangeas on it. "Tell me," I said. Circe swallowed. The ivy line clicked. She came over this morning. To the house. Lawson was at the office. She said she wanted to talk about the nursery. About Wren. She said, my daughter's chin trembled. She said the baby was going to have dirty blood, Mama. She said that. She said no grandchild of hers was going to come into the world with the wrong kind of blood. She said somebody needed to handle it before it was too late. I felt the floor move under my feet, but I kept standing. She had 2 men with her. In the driveway. I didn't see them at first. I thought she came alone. When I tried to call Lawson, she grabbed the phone. One of the men, he hit me, not hard, the first time, like he was waiting to see if I'd just give up. I didn't give up. Her good hand drifted down to her belly. I ran out the back, into the trees behind our property. They came after me. I don't know how long I ran. I fell. When they caught up. The bigger one. He kicked me, Mama. He kicked me in the back. He said his orders were to make it look like I fell off the ridge. They thought I was dead. They left me there. I think they left me there. I will not write what I felt in that moment. There aren't any words for it that aren't wasted. I straightened up. I took her good hand in both of mine. I made my voice as calm as I could find it. So Arze, look at me. Look at Mama. Where's Lawson right now? I don't know. I haven't been able to reach him. She had my phone. All right, baby. You rest. You rest. Mama's going to step into the hall for a minute and call your Uncle Hollis. Then I'm coming right back. She nodded the smallest amount you can call a nod. In the hallway, I leaned my back against the wall, and I dialed my brother. He picked up on the second ring. Emo, Hollis, it's Sarirza. Corlin did it, she sent 2 men. My grandbaby is alive, but they tried to make it look like a fall. The wine was silent for exactly 2 seconds. I counted them. Then he said very quietly, Where are you? St. Bridget's. Caldwell County. I'll be there in 3 hours. Don't talk to local police yet. Don't talk to anyone in the uniform. Don't sign anything they put in front of you. If anyone asks who hurt her, you say she doesn't remember. Emo, are you hearing me? She doesn't remember. Good girl. Don't leave her side. Don't take any phone calls from numbers you don't know. And Imo, listen to me. Pull yourself together. You and I are about to do the thing Daddy taught us how to do. Are you ready for that? I closed my eyes. I saw my father's hands. He was a county judge for 31 years in the part of Appalachia, where county judges still meant something. He used to sit my brother and me down at the kitchen table when we were small and tell us, there are 2 ways to fight people who think they're untouchable. The loud way, where you yell at the sky, and the quiet way, where you build a case so airtight the sky comes down to them. Quiet way. He always said quiet way. I'm ready, I told my brother. I walked back into my daughter's room. I sat down in the plastic chair next to the bed, and I held her hand while the IV dripped. I watched her breathe. I watched the little wave on the fetal monitor move up and down, my grandchild's heart, steady as a metronome. I made myself breathe in time with it. Lawson, my son-in-law, called the hospital landline 40 minutes later. He'd come home from the office to an empty house, blood on the back door frame and Searce's phone smashed on the kitchen floor. He was crying so hard the front desk could barely understand him. They patched him through. I took the receiver. Lawson. It's Mama. She's alive. He made a sound that wasn't a word. Lawson, listen to me. She's alive. The baby's alive. They're both alive. They're dove here. You drive carefully. And you do not, Lawson. Are you listening to me? You do not call your mother. You do not text her. You do not pick up her calls. Do you understand? There was a long pause. Then very softly, she did this. Lawson. Didn't she? She did this. He was 29 years old. He had grown up in that house, on that woman's money, with that woman's voice in his ear telling him what was acceptable and what was not. I had spent 4 years of my daughter's marriage trying not to dislike him on principle. He was a kind boy. He really was. He cried at his own wedding. He brought my daughter flowers on Tuesdays for no reason. Get here, I said. We'll talk when you get here. When I hung up the phone, my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something colder. Hollis arrived a little before 8 that evening. He came into the hospital room in a flannel shirt and jeans, looking like any other man visiting any other family member, except for his eyes. His eyes were doing what they always did, which is taking inventory of every exit and every face. He kissed the top of Source's head. He sat on the edge of the bed. He held her good hand and he said, Hey, kiddo. Uncle Hollis is here. You did good. You ran. You're a Brackenridge. We run smart. She actually smiled. A little one. The first one. She actually smiled. A little one. The first one. Out in the hallway, he and I talked in the low voices people use in hospitals. They didn't check on her, he said. If they thought she was dead, they didn't go back to confirm. That's our window. They don't know she's alive yet. How could they not know? 2 possibilities. 1, Coraline told them to leave the scene quick and clean, no return trip. That tracks for her. She'd be too smart to have her men photograph a body. Photographs end up on phones. Phones end up subpoenaed. 2, and this is the one that worries me. They're watching the house right now, waiting to see if a body turns up missing, which means they're watching Lawson. He's driving here. Then they're following him. I felt the cinnamon sweet kitchen of that morning slide further and further away from me. Hollis took out his own phone, not his everyday phone. A different one, smaller, older. He thumbed through it. Emo. Emo. He thumbed through it. Emo, where's your car parked? Visitor lot, south side. Give me your keys. I gave him my keys. He was gone 20 minutes. When he came back, he said a small black object on the windowsill of the hospital room. It was about the size of a pack of gum, with a green light on the side, blinking slow. Under your rear wheel, well, he said. Magnet mount. I stared at it. Coraline knew you'd dragged to the hospital, he said. She knew where SARS would call from. She put it on your car at some point in the last week. Probably when you were grocery shopping. She wants to know where Sauersafe goes if Sauersafe survives. Which means, and here he picked the device up and turned it gently in his fingers. She's not as confident as she's pretending to be. Good, that's good. We can use that. What do? We don't smash it. We don't throw it away. We make it tell her exactly what we want her to know. That was the first night of what came after. Lawson got to the hospital just before midnight. He came through the door of Cersei's room and stopped like he'd been struck. He went to the bed. He went to his knees beside it. He put his face against the blanket near her hip, and he didn't make a sound, but his shoulders shook for a long time. Ceresa, my brave girl, put her good hand on the back of his head and stroked his hair and whispered, It's okay. It's okay. I'm here. When he finally lifted his head, Hollis was waiting in the chair by the door. Son, my brother said, I need you to sit down. Lawson sat. I'm not going to ask you whether you knew, because if I think for 1 second that you knew, I will know it, and you'll see me know it, and we don't need to live through that. So I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and you're going to tell me whether you're in or whether you're out. There's no in-between. Do you understand? Lawson looked at his wife. He looked at the rise of her belly under the hospital blanket. He looked at the bruise on her face. I'm in, he said. His voice was hoarse. Whatever you need, I'm in. Then the first thing you're going to do is go home tonight. To the house. The house your mother thinks contains a dead wife and a missing daughter-in-law. You're going to act like a man who came home from the office and found blood and a broken phone and an empty house. You're going to call the police. You're going to file a missing persons report. You're going to cry, son. You're going to cry hard, because that is what is true. And then in the morning, you're going to call your mother. Lawson swallowed. And you're going to say, Hollis went on, that you don't know where Sorcy is. You're going to say you're going out of your mind. You're going to ask her to come over. To help. To be with you. And when she comes, and she will come, because she will want to see whether you suspect her, you're going to play the grieving husband. You're going to play it like your life depends on it. Because it might. Can you do that? Lawson's jaw moved. Yes. Good boy. Lawson left at 1 a.m. Before he walked out, he kissed my daughter's forehead and he whispered something to her that I didn't hear. Whatever it was, it made her cry and then it made her nod. The next 2 weeks were the strangest, most disciplined 2 weeks of my life. I have not written about them for anyone before now, and I am only writing about them now because my granddaughter, yes, the baby was a girl, and her name is Wren Imogen Brackenridge Hearn, and she has my mother's exact eyebrows, is finally old enough to know the shape of the story that surrounds her without being old enough to understand the worst of it. Hollis moved my car to a long-term lot at a regional airport 90 miles east of Caldwell County. The tracker pinged exactly where we wanted it to ping, as if I had driven my daughter somewhere far away, somewhere that suggested we were running, scared, hiding. Coraline's people followed it. 2 of them, Hollis later confirmed, drove out to that airport, walked the lot, found my Buick sitting alone under a sodium light and reported back. We let her think we were panicked. We let her think we were panicked. We let her think we were small and frightened and on the run. Meanwhile, my daughter healed in a private room registered under my maiden name, paid in cash in a small Catholic hospital 40 minutes from St. Bridget's, where my mother's cousin had been a nurse for 40 years. Ceres was discharged after 6 days. The baby's heartbeat never wavered. Lawson played his part. He went home. He called the police. He filed the report. He cried on the phone to his mother. He let her come over and hold him while he sobbed. He told me afterward that being in the same room with her was the hardest thing he had ever done in his life. That he could smell her perfume and feel her hand on his back, and know what those hands had done, and still he kept his face in the shape of a son who didn't know. Hollis told him afterward that he was a better actor than half the men my brother had served with in the army, which from Hollis is the highest compliment a man can receive. The quiet way. The case-building way. Hollis is friends with a forensic accountant in Charlotte named, well, I'll keep her name out of this. She owed Hollis a favor from many years ago. She spent 11 days inside Coraline Whitlock Hearn's family foundation. The foundation that was supposed to be funding scholarships for first-generation college students in 3 counties. The foundation Coraline had been photographed in front of for the local paper every spring for 22 years. $860,000 over 6 years had been moved out of that foundation into a holding company that paid the property taxes on Coraline's lake house in Hilton Head. Another $200,000 had gone toward what could only be described as private payments to two men who, after a little more digging, turned out to be the same two men who had stood in my daughter's driveway. They had records. Of course they had records. Men like that always have records. I will tell you what we did. We didn't burn it down. We didn't go to the press. We didn't show up screaming in her foyer. My father would have been proud of us. We did it the quiet way. We took the file. The whole file. The bank transfers, the dates, the photographs, the names of the two men, my daughter's medical records, the sworn statement she had given to Hollis on video the day after she came out of the hospital, and we took it to a federal prosecutor my father had known for 40 years. A woman in her late 50s now, with iron gray hair and a corner office, and exactly zero patience for old money pretending to be charity. She read the file in front of us, in her office, in absolute silence, for 2 hours. When she was done, she closed the folder and she said, "Mrs. Minus, Brackenridge, I have been waiting for this kind of file my entire career." Coraline Whitlock Hearn was arrested on a Tuesday morning in March, at her own kitchen table in front of her housekeeper, on charges of wire fraud, embezzlement of a charitable trust, conspiracy to commit assault, and conspiracy to commit murder of an unborn child, which is a charge that exists in our state and which she had not, apparently, thought to research before sending two men to a backyard. The two men were arrested the same morning at their separate addresses at the same hour. She tried to call Lawson from the county jail. He didn't pick up. She tried to call him the next day. He didn't pick up. On the third day, he changed his number. I sat in the courtroom for every day of that trial. Sora sat beside me. The baby was 3 months old by then, and she slept against my chest in a soft carrier the whole time. Coraline looked at us once, on the third day, across the room, with an expression I won't describe because I don't want to give it the dignity of being written down. Saoirse didn't look back. She looked at the judge. She looked at the flag. She looked at her own hands. And when the verdict came down, guilty on all counts, she did not cry. She just turned to me and said, very softly, "Mama, I want to go home and make apple pie." So we did. I want to say one more thing, because I owe it to the kind of woman who is reading this. There's a thing that happens to women in our family, and maybe in yours. We are taught early to keep the peace, to smooth the edges, to absorb, to make Thanksgiving work, to pretend we didn't hear what we heard, to laugh off the comment about our hair, our weight, our daughter's husband's family, our blood. We are taught that the cost of keeping the family together is some small piece of ourselves, every year forever, and by the time we are 60, we have given away so many small pieces that we don't recognize the shape we're standing in. I want to tell you that you do not owe anyone the small pieces of yourself. Not your mother-in-law, not your husband's family, not the people in the pew behind you on Sunday, not the woman at the country club who asks where your daughter found her husband. You don't owe them the small piece, you don't owe them the smile, you don't owe them the smile. And if one of them ever puts a hand on someone you love, or sends a man to do it for them, you do not have to scream at the sky. You can do it the quiet way. You can build the case. You can sit at your kitchen table with cinnamon on your hands, and your brother on the phone, and your daughter alive in the next room, and your granddaughter not yet born. And you can decide, in that moment, that this woman who thought your family had the wrong kind of blood is going to find out exactly what kind of blood our family has. It's the kind that doesn't quit. It's the kind that remembers. It's the kind that builds. Ran turned 4 last month. She helped me roll out the dough. She got flour on her nose and laughed about it for 10 minutes. Lawson is a wonderful father. He still cries sometimes on her birthday about the morning he almost lost them both. I tell him every time, you didn't lose them. You came home. You picked up the phone. You did the hard thing. And on the windowsill in my kitchen, behind the cinnamon jar, there is a small black object the size of a pack of gum. The green light went out years ago. I kept it anyway, to remind me that sometimes the people who think they're untouchable are just people who have never met a grandmother yet. I'm 68 years old now, and Ren is starting kindergarten in the fall. I think about that November morning more than I should. I think about the cinnamon sticks rolling into the sink. I think about how close I came to being the kind of grandmother who never got to meet her grandbaby. What I've learned, mostly, is that cruelty doesn't appear out of nowhere. Caroline didn't wake up one Tuesday and decide to send 2 men into my daughter's backyard. She had been practicing for decades. Every time she made a comment at a dinner table and nobody corrected her. Every time she said something at the country club and the women around her laughed politely instead of standing up. Every time her son came home from college with a girlfriend she didn't approve of, and she made that girl's life small until the girl went away, Coraline learned, year by year, that she could say anything and do anything and nobody around her had the spine to name it. And so she got bolder. And bolder. Until one morning she decided that a baby in my daughter's belly had the wrong kind of blood and she could fix that. The way she had fixed every other inconvenience in her life. Cause and effect. Every quiet permission we give to a cruel person is a brick in the wall they will eventually throw at someone we love. That's the first thing I want a younger woman reading this to understand. The second thing is harder. When the worst happened, I had a choice. I could have screamed. I could have driven straight to Coraline's house with a tire iron and given her exactly what she'd given my daughter. There were nights, in the weeks after, when I lay awake and wanted that more than I wanted to breathe. But my father taught us a long time ago that rage is a fire, and a fire burns the house down with everybody inside it, including the people you were trying to save. What builds something is patience. What builds something is paperwork. What builds something is a forensic accountant in Charlotte and a federal prosecutor with iron gray hair and a daughter who can testify because she's still alive to do it. The quiet way isn't weakness. The quiet way isn't weakness. The quiet way is what intelligence looks like when it's wearing work boots. And the third thing, the thing I think about most when I'm rolling out pie dough with Ren standing on a stool beside me, is that endurance is a family inheritance. Not blood. Not the kind Coraline meant. I mean the other kind. The kind that gets passed down when a grandmother teaches a grandchild how to peel an apple without losing the skin, when a brother drives 3 hours without asking questions, when a son-in-law walks into the room with the woman who tried to kill his wife and keeps his face steady because his family is counting on him. That's the blood. That's the inheritance. And it doesn't run out. You can spend it for 60 years, and there's always more. Because every time you choose decency and patience and refusing to quit, you make a little more of it for the next person in line. Ren got my mother's eyebrows. She'll get the rest of it too.